The Gerrymander, Revenge of the Jabberwock. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jub-jub bird, and shun the fruvious bandersnatch. Have you been wondering why everyone is always complaining about gerrymandering? To hear all the talk, one would think this is a conspiracy to rob Americans of their vote. Are we just being paranoid? Let's take a look. Let me start by explaining that gerrymandering is what we call the process to redraw a legislative district so that a given political party has an electoral advantage for House seats. The whimsical shape of some of these districts was once seen to resemble a dragon-like creature, a real-life Jabberwock. While the primary goal of gerrymandering is always to take a bigger piece of the electoral pie than you're entitled to, which is bad enough, the real damage is much worse than that. Let me explain. Imagine 3 congressional districts side by side. Each district has equal numbers of Democratic and Republican voters. Every election cycle, nominees of each party will gravitate to the center to attract moderate voters in order to win a majority of votes overall. This moderation is essential to political survival. Thus, every election cycle becomes an exercise in coalition building. Now imagine that Democrats in the state capitol take a look at this and decide to redraw or gerrymander the districts with different boundaries, like this, so that 2 of the 3 districts become solidly Democratic. They do this by packing all the Republicans into the 3rd district, which becomes solid red. Now, instead of fighting 50-50 for every seat, the Democrats have bandersnatched 2 of the 3 districts, where they now have a supermajority forever. That is the unfair aspect of gerrymandering, and it has been used historically by both parties for that purpose, to gain an advantage in seats. But look what else has happened. All 3 districts have become solidly blue or red. Once you win the primary, you have won the district. To win the primary, of course, you need to be true blue or true red. In other words, an extremist. And the more extreme, the better. Then in the general election, the Democratic candidates will clearly galump to victory in the Democratic districts, and the Republican candidate will win easily in the other gyre. In this way, the outgroup in each district finds itself disenfranchised, as each dissenting voter has now lost her electoral voice amidst the dominant rule of the majority group. The sad truth is that all the voters have lost their voices because every race is a foregone conclusion, no matter who votes or what anyone says or does. Worst of all, after winning their seats, neither Democratic nor Republican office holders will have any incentive to work together in Congress. Quite the opposite. A representative coming from a gerrymandered district will incur the wrath of her electors, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch, for showing any hint of collaboration with the other party. As a result, coalescence will be impossible. At this point, the governing body becomes a limp piece of lettuce, incompetent to address any matter of national importance. The best example I know of the obstructionist impact of gerrymandering is the Republican Party's failure to repeal and replace Obamacare in 2017, even though it controlled all 3 branches of government. Why were they unable to achieve consensus among their own members? A big contributor was the House Freedom Caucus, a small band of highly conservative members led by Mark Meadows, who refused to compromise with their moderate colleagues. They held out for the most extreme version, repeal but don't replace Obamacare, and refused to support a bill unless it conformed completely to their demands. How could they get away with this frumious behavior? For starters, they didn't have to compromise. They came from safe districts, primarily through gerrymandering. In fact, any hint of compromise could have cost them their seat. This is how gerrymandering destroys the legislative process. It is certainly not what our founding fathers intended when they created a representational democracy, and it might prove to be the fatal flaw in our system. How about a specific case? Up until 2010, North Carolina's 11th congressional district, with blue Asheville in the center, balanced by reddish rural counties all around, was a fierce battleground between Democrats and Republicans, with real balance on the political spectrum. To win this seat, a candidate would have to appeal across party lines. In 2011, North Carolina Republican leaders redrew the district by removing most of Asheville, creating a safe Republican seat. In the 2016 election, the Republican candidate won handily by a margin of 28%. His name? Mark Meadows, head of the Freedom Caucus. Just for fun, take a look at the shape of his district. See the hole in the middle? That is where Blue Asheville, the beating heart of the district, was ripped out of its midsection by Republican state legislators. It was brillig, but slithy. One wonders how this can even be legal. Nationwide, the increasing use of gerrymandering has chipped away at the competitiveness of district races over time. For example, in the 1976 national election, only 63 of 435 House seats were competitive, that is, won by a margin of 10% or less. By 2016, that number had dwindled to 33. Hence, 93% of representatives had no electoral incentive to work with the opposing party. Once again, the evidence speaks volumes, a crushing blow to the spirit of democracy. Let's review some of gerrymander's greatest hits. Here we have Alabama's 7th District. Now that's an interesting shape. What is the purpose of those two fingers extending outward? As it turns out, those extensions pack more black voters into this already majority black district, so they cannot influence voting in other districts near their homes. This strategy is called packing, and it guarantees that black people in Alabama have only one House seat out of 7, even though they are more than 28% of the population. Here is Texas's 2nd District, a slithy tove. Texas' 29th, the Jabberwock lying in wait. Maryland's 7th, the jaws that bite. Illinois' 4th, the claws that catch. Here is Maryland's 4th, the frumious bandersnatch. And Maryland's 3rd, scattershot. Wait, stop. Is this a district? It looks like someone just threw paint on the wall and it's stuck there. It is a district in Maryland. This is the work of Democrats. But before the Republicans get too smug, here is their masterpiece in North Carolina. The 1st District had a perimeter of 1,300 miles and led federal judges to observe that the Republican legislature targeted black voters with almost surgical precision to dilute their impact on the election. Voila! In correcting their redistricting debacle, the state gave Asheville back to the 11th District, making it competitive once again. Now that looks like a proper district. Should we be surprised that Mark Meadows decided not to run for re-election? It turns out that competitive districts are not friendly to obstructionists. So maybe there is a cure for our ailing democracy after all. And now we know how to slay the gerrymander. But do we know how to recognize it when we see it? Well, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's probably a gerrymander. The bad news is that the U.S. Supreme Court, when given a divine opportunity in 2019 to permanently cure this egregious system defect, fell breathtakingly, heartbreakingly, head-shakingly short of the mark in the indelible moment that separates the ordinary from the great. Our incredibly shrinking court, in a 5-4 ruling, passed its responsibility over to the legislative branch, the very ones who have an irresistible incentive to maintain their safe, gerrymandered districts exactly as they are. What an abdication of responsibility. They might as well have put a stake through my heart. While gerrymandering is a fatal flaw for democracy, failing to end it is a character flaw for the judicial branch. The good news is that Americans can dictate what they want through electoral pressure. In fact, the surest way to rise above politics in this effort is to do what a handful of enlightened states have already accomplished: turn the process over to an independent, nonpartisan commission. Arizona, California, Idaho, and Washington are 4 states which have done so. In following suit, the appropriate response by Congress would be to pass a federal law requiring independent commissions to draw district lines in every state. In a single bold legislative act, Congress could put an end to this atrocious behavior. But don't hold your breath. As noted above, House representatives have no personal incentive to cure this defect, which, after all, guarantees a safe seat in their next election. So, once again, the American people must rise up and insist that their elected officials do the right thing and repair our broken system, or be sacked. Once again, the ball is in our court. Once again, our best and only opportunity to cure a fatal defect is to vote for candidates who promise to slay the tenacious gerrymander. 1-2, 1-2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head, he went galumphing back. Louisiana's 6th District. Snicker-snack. Hi, I'm Nate Link, and I hope you were enlightened by this video essay on gerrymandering, one of 2 fatal flaws of our democracy. To learn about the other fatal flaw, private campaign financing, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Nate Link MD, and read my book, The Ailing Nation, winner of 2 National Book Awards and available online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Thank you.